The stars were silent where humans used to be. 112 years had passed since anyone had seen a human ship or heard a human voice. The great civilization that once controlled 17 different star systems had vanished completely. Their planets were empty. Their space stations floated without power. Their mighty warships had disappeared without a trace. Nobody knew what had happened to them. There were no signs of a great battle. No wreckage floated in space. No distress signals had ever been sent. The humans had simply stopped existing one day, and the rest of the galaxy moved on without them. Commander Zekthar of the Karathi Empire stood on the bridge of his warship, the Crimson Talon. He looked out at the massive space station that orbited above New Terra, the planet that used to be humanity's capital world. The station was huge, built to defend the planet from any attack. But now it was dark and lifeless, just like everything else the humans had left behind. Zekthar had 3 eyes, and all of them studied the dead station carefully. The Karathi were a warrior race. They had conquered many worlds and destroyed many enemies. But the humans had been different. When the Karathi had fought them years ago, the humans had fought back with incredible fury. They never surrendered, even when they were losing. They never gave up, even when they should have. That was what made their disappearance so strange. Warriors like the humans did not just run away. They did not abandon their worlds without a fight. Yet that was exactly what seemed to have happened. "Sir, we have scanned the entire station," his tactical officer said, his mandibles clicking together nervously. "There are no signs of battle, no radiation from weapons, no damage to the hull. The humans just left everything behind and disappeared." Zekthar's tail swished behind him. Something about this felt wrong. His instincts, sharpened by decades of warfare, told him that there was more to this mystery. But he had his orders. "Mark this system as conquered," Zekthar commanded. "Send troops to the planet below. The Karathi Empire now controls this world." His officers obeyed, but Zekthar could not shake the feeling that they were missing something important. In the darkness of space beyond his ship, the stars seemed to watch and judge. Far away, in a different part of what used to be human space, the Vryn collective was celebrating. The Vryn were an insect-like species with hard shells that gleamed in many colors. They lived in huge hives led by their queens, and they had always been jealous of humanity's beautiful planets and rich resources. Now those planets belonged to the Vryn, Hive Queen. Zathrin sang chemical songs of victory that her children could sense and understand. In just 1 year, her collective had established colonies on 6 worlds that used to belong to humans. The soft-skinned mammals were gone, and the Vryn were happy about it. "The weak have fallen and the strong survive," Zathrin sang to her brood. "These worlds are ours now. We will fill them with our children and grow more powerful than ever before." Her warriors and workers echoed her song, their joy spreading through the hive mind they all shared. Not one of them wondered where the humans had really gone. They simply accepted that humanity was extinct and that the Vryn had won. In the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, representatives from 47 different species gathered for an important meeting. The council chamber was enormous, with seats designed for every kind of alien life. Some sat on chairs, some floated in the air, and some existed as pure energy contained in special fields. Today they were meeting to decide the final division of human territory. After more than a century of waiting, they had agreed that humanity was never coming back. It was time to officially split up all the world stations and resources the humans had left behind. The Dakari ambassador spoke first. The Dakari were beings made of crystalline energy, and they pulsed with bright colors when they communicated. "Let us remember this day," the ambassador said. "The age of human interference in our galaxy has ended. They disrupted trade, they questioned our authority, and they refused to follow our rules. Now they are gone, and we can finally divide their territory among the elder races." One by one, the other species agreed. The Karathi would take the military stations. The Vryn would claim the farming worlds. The Dakari would control the mining operations. Other species would receive smaller shares based on their power and influence. The vote was unanimous. Every species raised their hand, tentacle, or energy field in agreement. Humanity's empire was officially ended, carved up like a feast among the victors. None of them noticed the small distortion at the edge of their sensor range. None of them detected the faint shimmer that appeared for just a moment before vanishing again. If they had been paying attention, They might have realized that something invisible was watching their entire meeting, but they were not paying attention. They were too busy celebrating their victory over an enemy that they believed was dead and gone. On New Terra, Karathi soldiers marched through the empty human cities. The buildings were still standing, and many of them were beautiful. Humans had been good at making things that pleased the eye. But now these cities were silent tombs, filled with furniture and machines but no people. A young Karathi soldier named Vexan walked through what used to be a human home. There were pictures on the walls showing human families smiling together. There were toys scattered on the floor where human children had played. There was food in storage that had long since rotted away. Where did they all go? Vexan asked his commander. The commander, an older warrior with many scars, shook his head. No one knows. Some say they found a way to leave this galaxy. Others say they all died from a plague. There are even stories that they are still out there somewhere, hiding and watching. Vexan laughed at the last idea. Why would mighty warriors hide? If the humans were still alive, they would be fighting to take back their worlds. The commander did not laugh. He looked around at the empty human city and felt the same unease that Zekthar had felt in orbit. Perhaps, he said quietly, or perhaps they are waiting for something. Waiting for what? Vexan asked. The commander had no answer. In the orbital space above the planet, construction ships from 3 different species were already beginning to modify the human space station. They were adding their own weapons, their own power systems, and their own design elements. Soon there would be no trace left that humans had ever built this place, or so they thought. Far beyond their sensors, beyond their ability to detect, something massive hung in the void. It made no sound. It produced no heat. It reflected no light. By every measure that the aliens understood, it did not exist, but it was there, and it was watching, and it was recording everything. Admiral Gregory Preston stood in the holographic conference room aboard the command ship Eisenhower. Around him, ghostly images of his fleet commanders appeared one by one. 47 captains and commanders representing every human warship still in existence materialized in the space. Some of them looked young. Some looked old. All of them wore the same expression of determination. They had been waiting for this meeting their entire lives. "Thank you all for joining me," Preston began. His face was weathered with age, but his voice was strong. "I will not waste time with long speeches. Our scouts have discovered that the Karathi are planning a ceremony on New Terra in 6 days. They are going to declare it the new capital of their empire. Every major alien species will send representatives." Captain Ryan Tucker, commander of the carrier Lincoln, leaned forward. "How many ships will be there?" "Our intelligence says at least 200 warships in orbit," Preston replied. "The Karathi Emperor himself will be there on his personal flagship. The Vryn Queen is coming. The entire Dakari High Council will attend." A murmur went through the assembled commanders. This was bigger than any of them had expected. Commander Nicole Harris spoke up, keeping her voice steady. "Sir, you are suggesting we hit them all at once." "I am not suggesting it, Commander. I am ordering it." Preston's eyes moved across the gathered officers. "For 112 years we have been hiding. We have watched them take our worlds. We have seen them destroy our monuments and erase our history. They think we are dead. They think they won." He paused to let his words sink in. "In 6 days we are going to show them the truth. Humanity did not run away. We were never gone. We were waiting for the right moment." Lieutenant Commander Paul Martinez raised a concern that others were thinking. "Sir, if we reveal ourselves now, we are starting a total war. There will be no going back to hiding." "You are absolutely right," Preston acknowledged. "But think about this carefully. What kind of future do we have if we stay hidden? Do we wait another century? Another 1,000 years? Or do we take back what belongs to us?" Captain Lisa Chen spoke next, her voice carrying a hard edge. "The aliens divided our territory like we never existed. They are mining Earth itself, our homeworld. I say we hit them with everything we have." Agreement echoed through the chamber. Heads nodded. Fists clenched. Every commander felt the same fire burning inside them. Preston brought up a tactical display showing New Terra and the space around it. "Operation Reckoning will happen in 3 phases. Phase 1. We position our entire fleet in a sphere around New Terra while maintaining stealth. Phase 2. At the height of their ceremony, when their ships are clustered together and their guards are down, we decloak all at once. Phase 3. We broadcast a message to every species in the galaxy." "What message, sir?" someone asked. Preston's expression became like iron. That humanity has returned, and we are taking our worlds back. The planning session went on for hours. Every ship was assigned a specific target. Every captain understood exactly what they had to do. The Roosevelt would decloak first to draw the aliens' attention. The Lincoln and Washington would focus on the Karathi flagship. The Gettysburg and her sister ships would take out the Vrin cruisers. They discussed timing, formations, weapon systems, and emergency procedures. They planned for every possibility they could imagine. This operation had to be perfect. They would only get one chance to make this statement. When the meeting finally ended, Jake Morrison found himself standing with Lisa Chen in the observation room once more. The stars outside looked the same as always, but everything felt different now. "Are we really going to do this?" Jake asked quietly. Lisa stared out at the invisible fleet surrounding them. "We stopped being fully human when we went into hiding, Jake. For 100 years we have been ghosts. Living but not really alive. It is time we started living again." Jake nodded slowly. "Then let's make sure they remember why they should have feared us." On New Terra, preparations for the great ceremony were underway. The Karathi had built a massive plaza where humans used to celebrate their achievements. Now it would host the biggest gathering of alien leaders in decades. Workers from a dozen different species rushed to finish the decorations. Huge banners displayed the symbols of the Karathi Empire. Stages were built for speakers. Security checkpoints were established at every entrance. Emperor Krathzon himself supervised some of the preparations. He was enormous even for a Karathi, standing 3 meters tall with armor that gleamed like polished metal. His presence commanded respect and fear from everyone around him. "This will be a day remembered throughout history," he announced to his advisors. "The day when the Karathi Empire took its rightful place as the greatest power in the galaxy." His advisors all agreed enthusiastically, though some of them privately thought their emperor was being too boastful. Still, none dared to contradict him. Krathzon did not tolerate disagreement. In orbit above New Terra, the alien fleet was gathering. Ships from 17 different species arrived each day, taking up positions around the planet. The Karathi warships were largest and most numerous. The Vrin sent their distinctive organic-looking cruisers. The Dakari arrived in vessels that seemed to be made of pure crystalline energy. It was an impressive display of power. Any species that saw this fleet would think twice before challenging the alliance that had formed from humanity's ashes. Commander Zekthar was there too, commanding the Crimson Talon as part of the honor guard. He watched the other ships arrive and felt proud to be part of this moment, but that nagging unease still bothered him, lurking at the back of his mind. He called his science officer to the bridge. "Run another scan of the system. Look for anything unusual." The science officer seemed confused. "Sir, we have already scanned this system thoroughly. There is nothing here except our fleet and the planet." "Scan it again," Zekthar ordered. "Use maximum sensitivity." The science officer obeyed, though he clearly thought his commander was being paranoid. The scans came back showing exactly what they had shown before. Nothing unusual. Just the alien fleet in empty space. Zekthar dismissed the officer and continued staring out at the stars. He trusted his instincts. They had kept him alive through dozens of battles, and right now those instincts were screaming that something was wrong, but he had no proof. No evidence, just a feeling. Aboard the Roosevelt, preparations were also underway. The crew moved through their duties with quiet efficiency. Weapons were checked and rechecked. Shield generators were tested. Navigation systems were calibrated to ensure split-second timing. Jake Morrison ran simulations at his weapons console, practicing the firing sequences he would need to execute perfectly. His hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. He had done this thousands of times in training. Now he would do it for real. Lisa Chen walked through the ship, speaking briefly with different crew members. She saw determination on every face. These people had lived their entire lives for this moment. Some of them were nervous, but none were afraid. They knew what needed to be done. In the mess hall, crew members ate their meals quietly. Conversations were subdued. Everyone was thinking about what was coming. In 6 days, they would either succeed in announcing humanity's return, or they would die trying. There was no middle ground. A young officer named Kyle Rogers sat with his food, barely touching it. He was 19 years old, born and raised on the Roosevelt. He had never walked on a planet's surface. He had never seen the sun except through filtered viewports. His entire life had been lived in hiding. An older officer, Susan Blake, sat down next to him. She had gray in her hair and calm eyes that had seen many years. "Nervous?" she asked gently. Kyle nodded. "What if something goes wrong?" "Then we adapt," Susan replied. "That is what humans do best. We survive, we adapt, we overcome." She put a hand on his shoulder. "Your great-grandparents made the choice to hide so that you could have this chance. Do not waste it by being afraid. Be ready instead." Kyle took a deep breath and nodded again. She was right. Fear was useless. Preparation was everything. All across the human fleet, similar conversations were happening. Veterans reassuring newcomers, officers encouraging their crews, everyone preparing mentally for what was about to happen. The galaxy thought humans were gone. In 6 days, they would learn the truth. Jake Morrison stared at the screen in front of him for what felt like the 1,000th time. The holographic display showed every enemy ship, every alien colony, and every military base that now existed in what used to be human space. There were so many of them now. The aliens had moved in like they owned the place. "They are getting too comfortable," said Captain Lisa Chen. She stood next to Jake in the observation room of their ship, the Roosevelt. The room was quiet like everything else on the vessel. Every surface was designed to absorb sound and energy. Nothing could escape to give away their position. Jake nodded, his jaw tight with anger. "They have built 17 new colonies. They have 342 military bases. They are even mining resources from Earth's moon." Lisa's face went hard when he mentioned Earth. The human homeworld, the planet where their species was born, was now occupied by aliens who treated human history like garbage. Every instinct told her to attack right now, to make them pay for what they had done. But she was a professional. She knew better than to act on emotion. "Admiral Preston wants us to stay hidden," she said quietly. "We follow the plan. The plan." Operation Silent Watch was what humanity had called it. When the wars against the aliens had gone badly, when it became clear that humans would lose, they had made a desperate choice. Instead of fighting to extinction, they had done something that no other species thought was possible. They had vanished completely. Every human ship, every space station, every colony had activated secret stealth technology that humanity had developed in their final years. Billions of people had gone dark, living in complete silence while the galaxy moved on without them. For more than 100 years, humanity had watched from the shadows. They rebuilt their strength. They improved their technology. And they waited for the right moment to return. Jake brought up another screen showing where humanity's hidden fleet was positioned. Scattered across their former territory, invisible to every scanner the aliens had, were 600 warships. These were not the same ships that had fought the aliens over a century ago. These had been upgraded with new weapons, new shields, and new technology that the Karathi and Vryn could not even imagine. "The Roosevelt alone could destroy a Karathi dreadnought," Jake said. "And they have no idea we are here." "They think we ran away like cowards," Lisa replied. A cold smile appeared on her face. "They think we were too weak to fight them." On the bridge, a communications officer suddenly sat up straight. She pressed her hand to her earpiece, listening carefully. Then she turned to relay the message to Captain Chen. "Ma'am, we have a priority transmission from Fleet Command. It's Admiral Preston. He is calling all commanders to a meeting." Lisa nodded slowly. She felt her heartbeat quicken. Looks like the waiting might finally be over. All across human space, on invisible ships that floated like ghosts among the stars, other commanders received the same message. Captain Ryan Tucker on the carrier Lincoln checked his orders. Commander Nicole Harris on the destroyer Washington confirmed receipt. Lieutenant Commander Paul Martinez on the stealth frigate Gettysburg prepared to join the conference. After 112 years of hiding, something was about to change. The long silence was coming to an end. Below the Roosevelt, on one of the planets that aliens now called their own, a Vryn colony was growing. The insect-like aliens had built their hive structures across what used to be human farmland. They were happy here, thinking they had claimed this world fair and square. A Vryn worker named Tikix gathered food from the fields, singing the simple songs that workers sang while they labored. Life was good. The weather was perfect. The soil was rich. The humans who used to live here had chosen their worlds well. Tikix never looked up at the sky. If she had, she still would not have seen the massive human ship hanging in orbit above her. The Roosevelt was less than 200 kilometers away, close enough to count every alien on the planet's surface, but completely invisible to their sensors. On another world, Karathi soldiers practiced combat drills in what used to be a human military academy. The buildings still had human writing on the walls, but the Karathi had covered most of it with their own symbols. They trained hard, preparing for future conquests. The Karathi Empire was always hungry for more territory. Commander Zekthar visited this training facility once every month. He watched the young soldiers practice their skills and felt pride in their strength. But he also felt that strange unease that never quite went away. Sometimes when he was alone, he would look up at the stars and wonder, where had the humans really gone? Had they truly died out, or had something else happened? And if they were still alive somewhere, what were they doing? He never spoke these thoughts out loud. The other Karathi would think he was being paranoid. The war with humanity had been over for more than a century. It was time to stop worrying about ghosts and focus on the future. But Zekthar could not shake the feeling that those ghosts were closer than anyone realized. In the council chambers, the Dakari ambassador was giving a speech about the success of the human territory integration. Resources were flowing well. Trade routes were established. The various species had learned to cooperate in dividing the former human worlds. "This is a new golden age for our galaxy," the ambassador declared, pulsing with bright satisfaction. "Without the humans to disrupt our order, we have achieved peace and prosperity." The other council members agreed with enthusiasm. They praised themselves for their wisdom in working together. They congratulated each other on how well they had managed the transition. Not one of them suspected that human ships surrounded their council station at that very moment. Not one of them knew that human sensors were recording every word they spoke. Not one of them realized that humanity had been watching them for over a century, studying their tactics, learning their weaknesses, and planning for this exact moment. Jake Morrison thought about all of this as he prepared for the commander's meeting. He had been born on the Roosevelt 28 years ago. He had never known a life outside of stealth operations. His parents had been crew members who had grown up during the early years of hiding. His grandparents had been among the original officers who had made the choice to disappear. 3 generations of his family had lived in silence, waiting for this day. 3 generations had dreamed of the moment when humanity would step back into the light. "Are you ready for this?" Lisa asked him. She could see the mix of emotions on his face. "I have been ready my whole life," Jake replied. "We all have," Lisa understood. Every human alive had grown up with the same purpose: take back what was stolen, reclaim their place in the galaxy, show the aliens that humanity had not been defeated, just patient. The meeting with Admiral Preston would decide when that patience would finally end. It would determine when humanity would stop watching and start acting. And once that happened, the galaxy would never be the same again. In the empty corridors of an abandoned human space station, dust floated in the zero gravity. The aliens had not bothered to claim this particular station because it was too old and too damaged to be useful. They had left it to drift in space, another piece of human history slowly falling apart. But if anyone had looked closely at that station, if they had sent a team inside to explore, they would have found something interesting. In the deepest parts of the station, in rooms that appeared to be empty and powerless, small lights blinked in the darkness. Computer systems hummed quietly, still active after all these years. The station was not as abandoned as it appeared. Like everything else humanity had left behind, it was watching and waiting. The galaxy thought humans were gone. They thought they had won. They had no idea how wrong they were. The day of the ceremony arrived with beautiful weather on New Terra. The sky was clear and blue, just as it had been when humans lived there. The Great Plaza was filled with thousands of alien dignitaries from across the galaxy. Karathi nobles wore their finest ceremonial armor. Vryn swarm leaders displayed their most colorful carapaces. Dakari energy beings pulsed with bright satisfaction. In orbit above the planet, the alien fleet formed an impressive display. 234 warships from 17 different species floated in formation. Their hulls gleamed in the light of New Terra's sun. At the center of the formation hung the Emperor's Pride, the Karathi flagship. It was 3 kilometers long and covered with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Emperor Krathzon himself stood at the speaker's podium in the plaza. His voice boomed across the crowd, amplified by speakers so everyone could hear. Today we celebrate more than the conquest of this world. We celebrate the triumph of strength over weakness. Humanity is gone, vanished like smoke in the wind, and we inherit everything they left behind. Cheers erupted from the assembled crowds. Aliens of every species celebrated together, united in their victory over an enemy that no longer existed. In the darkness beyond the fleet, invisible and patient, 400 human warships waited in perfect silence. They had taken up positions over the past 3 days, moving slowly and carefully to avoid detection. Now they surrounded the entire alien formation in a perfect sphere. Jake Morrison watched the ceremony feed from his station aboard the Roosevelt. His hands rested steady on the weapons console, ready to act the moment the order came. Around him, the bridge crew worked in complete silence. Every eye was locked on their displays. Every finger was poised over controls. "All ships report ready," the communications officer announced quietly. Captain Lisa Chen stood at the center of the bridge. Her eyes were locked on the tactical display showing the alien fleet and the invisible human ships surrounding them. She took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "Admiral Preston sends the order," she said. "Operation Reckoning is go. Decloak in 3, 2, 1. The Roosevelt shimmered into existence directly above the alien fleet. Her massive form appeared as if conjured from nothing, emerging from empty space into reality. For one single heartbeat, there was absolute silence across every alien ship. Then 399 more human warships decloaked in perfect synchronization. They appeared all around the alien fleet, surrounding it completely. The sphere of human vessels blocked every possible escape route. Their weapons were already locked onto targets. Their shields were already raised to full power. The aliens' celebration turned to chaos in seconds. Alarms screamed across every alien ship. Tactical officers stared at their screens in disbelief, unable to process what they were seeing. Captains shouted orders that their crews were too shocked to follow. "This is impossible," Commander Zekthar breathed aboard the Crimson Talon. His 3 eyes were wide with shock. "They are dead. We saw their empty worlds. This cannot be real." "All alien vessels, this is Admiral Preston of the human fleet," came the broadcast on every frequency, in every language. The voice was calm but carried absolute authority. "You are surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning." Emperor Krathzone's mandibles clacked together in fury. How dare these humans threaten him? How dare they interrupt his moment of triumph? He slammed his fist on the podium, making several nearby aliens jump in fear. "Open fire," he commanded through his communication link to the fleet. "Destroy them all. Show them why they should have stayed hidden." The Karathi fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked toward the human ships by the thousands. It was an impressive display of firepower that should have been devastating. The combined alien fleet had enough weapons to level a continent. Should have been devastating. The human point defense systems activated instantly. Thousands of small turrets tracked every incoming projectile with perfect accuracy. Laser grids created walls of intercepting fire. Not a single alien weapon reached its target. Every missile was destroyed. Every plasma bolt was intercepted. Every torpedo was shot down before it could get close. The aliens fired for 10 seconds straight, expending enormous amounts of ammunition and energy. When they stopped, not one human ship had been touched. Then the humans returned fire. Advanced railguns fired solid projectiles at a fraction of the speed of light. They tore through alien shields like the shields were not even there. Directed energy weapons sliced through hulls with surgical precision, disabling engines and weapons systems without destroying the ships completely. In 90 seconds, half the alien fleet was disabled or destroyed. "Ceasefire," Lisa commanded from the Roosevelt's bridge. "Let them see what happens when they ignore a warning." Jake watched his display as alien ships desperately tried to flee in every direction. But no matter which way they turned, human vessels blocked their path. Some tried to activate their faster-than-light drives to escape the system entirely, but found that human jamming systems prevented it. They were trapped completely. "Sir, the Vryn Queen's ship is trying to run," the tactical officer reported, pointing at a large organic-looking cruiser attempting to break through the human line. "Let her try," Lisa said coldly. "She will not get far." She was right. The Vryn cruiser managed to separate from the main formation before 3 human frigates appeared directly in its path. Their weapons locked onto the cruiser instantly. The cruiser's shields collapsed under the first barrage of fire. The second barrage disabled its engines. The third destroyed its weapons. The Vryn Queen's ship drifted helplessly, unable to move or fight. On the surface, the ceremony had dissolved into complete panic. Alien dignitaries scrambled for their shuttles, desperate to escape into space. But when they tried to launch, they found human fighter craft patrolling the atmosphere. No unauthorized ships were allowed to leave. Those who tried to launch anyway were forced back down by warning shots that came within meters of their hulls. The message was clear: stay on the ground or be destroyed. Admiral Preston's voice filled every communication channel once more. To every species that claimed our worlds, hear this message. Humanity has returned. You thought we were weak. You thought we ran away. You were wrong. We were not running. We were preparing. In the plaza, thousands of aliens huddled together in fear. The mighty Emperor Krathzon, who had been so confident moments before, stood frozen at his podium. He watched on a screen as his flagship's shields failed under human fire. He watched his fleet burning in orbit around him. He finally understood the terrible truth. The humans had never been the prey. They had always been the predators. And they had just been waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Commander Zekthar sat in his command chair aboard the Crimson Talon, watching his tactical display with something like awe. The human technology was so far ahead of theirs. The human tactics were perfect. The human discipline was absolute. This was not a battle. This was a demonstration. His science officer turned to him with wide eyes. Sir, our sensors are detecting strange energy signatures from the human ships. It appears they have been in this system for days, possibly weeks. We just could not see them. Zekthar felt a chill run through his body. They were watching us the whole time. Yes, sir, the officer confirmed. And not just here. I am detecting similar signatures throughout this sector. The humans have been everywhere, watching everything. Zekthar closed his eyes. His instincts had been right, but he had ignored them because ignoring them was easier than accepting the truth. The humans had never left. They had simply stopped being visible. How long had they been watching? Years, decades? Had they seen every Karathi strategy meeting? Had they recorded every conversation about how to divide human territory? Had they been gathering intelligence the entire time while the aliens celebrated their victory? He opened his eyes and looked at the human ships surrounding his vessel. Open a channel, he ordered quietly. I am surrendering my ship. His officers stared at him in shock, but Zekthar ignored them. He was a warrior, and warriors knew when they were beaten. Fighting now would be suicide, and he would not throw away his crew's lives for pride. Human vessels, this is Commander Zekthar of the Crimson Talon. We are powering down our weapons and shields. We surrender. One by one, other alien ships followed his example. Captains who valued their crews more than their pride gave the order to stand down. Within 15 minutes, the entire alien fleet had surrendered except for the Emperor's pride. Krathzon refused to give up. He stood on his bridge and ordered his crew to keep fighting. But his weapons officer quietly disobeyed, shutting down the weapon systems before they could fire. Other officers did the same with shields and engines. They had seen what happened to ships that kept fighting. They did not want to die for their Emperor's pride. Krathzon screamed threats and curses at his crew, but it made no difference. The battle was over. Humanity had won. 3 days after the battle at New Terra, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The council chamber that had been so full of celebration just weeks ago was now filled with fear and uncertainty. Representatives who had confidently divided human space now sat in stunned silence as Admiral Preston addressed them through a holographic projection. For over a century, you believed humanity was extinct, Preston said. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the steel underneath. You divided our territory among yourselves. You colonized our worlds. You erased our presence from the galaxy. You celebrated our disappearance as if it was a great victory. The Dakari ambassador pulsed nervously, its crystalline form flickering between colors. Admiral, we had no way of knowing that you were still alive. We thought your species had died out. You knew exactly what you were doing, Preston cut him off. You saw empty worlds and assumed we were too weak to defend them. You were partially right. We could not defend them at that time. So we made a choice that no other species has ever made. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in throughout the chamber. We chose to disappear completely, to let you think you had won. While you celebrated, we watched every move you made. While you expanded into our space, we rebuilt our strength. While you grew comfortable in your conquest, we prepared for this exact moment. Captain Lisa Chen stood on the bridge of the Roosevelt, now positioned in high orbit above New Terra, alongside the rest of the human fleet. Below on the planet's surface, human marines were peacefully but firmly removing alien colonists. There was no violence. The aliens were not being hurt, but they were being told to leave, and the presence of human warships made it clear that this was not negotiable. "How is the evacuation going?" she asked Jake Morrison. "Very smoothly," Jake reported from his console. "The Karathi are cooperating fully. It turns out they are not so eager to fight when they realize they cannot win." Lisa nodded, watching the streams of shuttles leaving the planet's surface on her display. "Good. Admiral Preston wants this done correctly. We are not conquerors. We are not here to enslave or destroy." "No," Jake agreed. "We are survivors taking back what belongs to us." Across all of human space, the same scene was repeating on world after world. Human fleets would arrive at a system, decloak to show their presence and make their demands clear. Leave peacefully or be removed by force. Most species chose to leave peacefully. The few who tried to resist found that humanity's weapons were even more effective when humans were not trying to be merciful. On a farming world that the Vryn had colonized, Hive Queen Zathrin received the message from her workers. The humans had arrived. They wanted the Vryn to leave within 30 days. Zathrin's first instinct was to refuse, to order her warriors to fight, but then she remembered the reports from New Terra. She remembered how easily the human ships had destroyed the combined alien fleet. She made the difficult choice to order evacuation. Her children would live to build hives on other worlds. Pride was not worth extinction. In the council chambers, the Vryn representative chittered anxiously. "What are your terms, Admiral? What do you want from us?" Preston brought up a star map showing all the former human territories. Every world that had once belonged to humanity was highlighted in blue. "My terms are simple. Every world, every station, every installation that was ours before we disappeared must be returned immediately. You have 60 days to complete your evacuation." "That is impossible," the Karathi ambassador protested, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "We have billions of citizens living on those worlds now. We cannot move them all in 60 days. "Then you should start moving them now instead of arguing," Preston replied without sympathy. "We gave you fair warning at New Terra. We will not give another warning. Any species that remains on our worlds after 60 days will be removed by force." "What about compensation?" the Dakari asked, its crystalline form pulsing with what might have been anger or fear. "We invested significant resources in developing those worlds. Surely you owe us something for our expenses." When Lisa heard that transmission replayed on the Roosevelt, she actually laughed out loud. Jake looked at her in surprise. "They want us to pay them," Lisa said, shaking her head in disbelief. "They steal our worlds, and now they want us to compensate them for the costs of stealing." Admiral Preston's response should be interesting. Jake observed with a slight smile. It was very interesting. "Compensation?" Preston's voice carried a note of dangerous amusement. "You want humanity to pay you for the costs of illegally occupying our territory? Here is my counteroffer. You leave peacefully and we do not hold you accountable for over a century of theft. We do not demand payment for everything you took. We do not seek revenge for the disrespect you showed to our civilization." Silence filled the council chamber. "Think very carefully about your next words," Preston continued. "Humanity has demonstrated our technological advantage. What we showed you at New Terra was a small sample of our capabilities. You have seen less than 10% of our fleet. You have witnessed only our defensive abilities. Would you like us to demonstrate what we built for offense?" The answer from every species was a resounding no. Within 30 days, the evacuation was well underway across all of human space. Alien species that had carved up human territory like it was theirs by right now scrambled to leave before humanity's patience ran out. The Karathi Empire lost 27 star systems that they had controlled. The Vryn Collective surrendered 42 colonies. The Dakari released control of the resource-rich asteroid belts they had claimed. Commander Zekthar supervised the Karathi evacuation of New Terra personally. He made sure his soldiers treated the process with respect and efficiency. As he watched the last Karathi transport leave the surface, he felt something unexpected. Relief. The burden of occupying human worlds had always felt wrong to him. even if he had never admitted it before. Now that burden was lifted, the humans were back and the universe made sense again. The mystery that had haunted him for years was finally solved. Standing on the surface of New Terra 2 months after the battle, Captain Ryan Tucker watched as human colonists arrived to reclaim their ancestral home. Ships full of humans who had lived their entire lives in hiding were landing, touching soil that their great-grandparents had walked on. Many of them were crying tears of joy. The orbital defense platforms were being reactivated. The cities were being cleaned and repaired. The monuments to human achievement were being restored to their former glory. New Terra was becoming a human world again. "We actually did it," Commander Nicole Harris said, standing beside Ryan. "We really did it." "We survived," Ryan corrected her gently. Everything else was just making them understand that survival was not the same as defeat. Admiral Preston addressed all of humanity from the restored Capitol building. His image was broadcast to every human ship, every station, and every settlement across 17 star systems. Billions of humans watched as their leader spoke. 112 years ago, we faced an impossible choice, Preston said. Fight against overwhelming odds and die, or hide and live. We chose to live. We chose to endure. We chose to wait for the moment when we could return not as desperate refugees, but as a civilization reborn and stronger than ever. He paused, looking out over the massive crowd of humans gathered in the plaza below. Many of them had never seen a natural sky before. Many had never walked on a planet without a spacesuit. For them, this moment was more than a victory. It was freedom. Today, humanity reclaims its rightful place in the galaxy, not through conquest or cruelty, but through perseverance and strength. Let every species in this galaxy learn an important lesson. We are not easy prey. We are not weak. We do not give up. And we never ever forget. The crowd erupted in cheers that could be heard for kilometers. On the Roosevelt, Jake Morrison stood with Lisa Chen in the observation room one final time before the ship departed for its new patrol route. They watched the fleet beginning to spread out across reclaimed human space, taking up defensive positions to ensure no one ever took their worlds again. "What do you think happens now?" Jake asked. Lisa smiled, a genuine expression of hope that Jake rarely saw on her face. "Now we live, Jake. We build, we grow. We make sure that no one ever mistakes our patience for weakness again. We show the galaxy what humanity can really do when we are not hiding in the shadows." In the darkness between the stars, humanity's stealth technology remained active on new sensor platforms. They watched. They monitored. They ensured that every species in the galaxy understood the lesson that had been taught. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never forget it again. The other species learned to treat humanity with respect and caution. Trade agreements were negotiated fairly. Borders were established and honored. The Galactic Council invited humanity to take a seat as equals, not as conquered territory to be divided. Some species remained bitter about losing the worlds they had claimed, but none dared to challenge humanity openly. They had seen what happened when humans were pushed too far. They had learned that patience was not weakness and silence was not defeat. Years passed. Children who had been born during the hiding grew up to walk freely on human worlds.